Hi everyone, this is Aaron, otherwise known as Just One More Thing. Since my channel hit 100,000 subscribers, I thought this is a good time to answer some of your questions. This is going to be a much more laid back and casual video, not my usual type of content. So if you're interested in some of my favorite films, personal things about me, or anything related to the channel, then stick around and I'll do some chapter markers so you can jump around in the video. Before starting, let me just really quickly thank all of you who followed my channel for the past year and subscribed, watched my videos and commented. It all means a lot and I really enjoy making these, so hopefully I can keep doing this for a long time. Are there any other creators you look up to or are inspired by? I think my first one was probably Every Frame a Painting. Like everyone in this scene, I think, started watching his videos more than a decade ago now. But the biggest influence for me wasn't him, personally, but a YouTuber called Captain Christian. I say it like this because nowadays he's not around that much, so maybe some people don't know him. But I think he's at least as big of a legend as Every Frame a Painting is. To me, his visual representation and attention to detail and storytelling is just something that I really cherish, and it's so close to my heart. To this day, I frequently rewatch his videos. I probably saw all of them at least 3-4 times, and the ones I love, I studied a lot and rewatched it just to, keep pushing me or inspiring me. I think he's really the best, and it is unfortunate that he's not posting as frequently anymore. I remember watching his first few videos and I was blown away by his motion design and animations. And back in the day, I wasn't even a user of After Effects, so it's actually interesting to see how he improved a lot, and since then how much I learned. If you want to check him out, then I recommend you to watch his video on Hayao Miyazaki or the one he made about the Japanese horror movie House. But there's so many great content, even some of his more recent ones in the last few months. Those are really underappreciated, and I really want you to take a look and see what I'm talking about. What's a film you think about way more often than you talk about on the channel? There's just too many to count. When I'm not working a lot, I watch one movie a day. Obviously, the amount of videos I can create is much less, so I always have a few that is just stuck to my mind. Recently, I think Happy End by Neo Sora was one that I really loved. La Cérémonie by Claude Chabrol is amazing as well. Moving by Shinji Somai is something I recently watched, and I think it became one of my most favorite films of all time. Another Japanese film I really love, something I can just sit down and watch and it's just so wholesome and nice, is Swing Girls. You wouldn't think that a movie about girls in a musical band could be so great, but it is actually that great. So definitely check it out if you can. Shunji Iwai's All About Lady Shushu is one of those gut-wrenching movies that you just have to see. It's amazing as well. But yeah, there's too many, so I don't want to make this video like an hour long, so I think that's it. Do you think video essays can change the way people make films, not just watch them? This is a difficult question, but I think we can see how influential YouTube can be nowadays. There are filmmakers now who used to be YouTubers or video essays themselves, such as the Filippo brothers, the directors of Bring Her Back. Also, there's Kogonada, who made After Yang. He had loads of great video essays before he started directing movies. So it's a bit of a weird comparison, but it reminded me of the French New Wave when the film critics became filmmakers and they had a very different idea about movies than earlier generations. So I think if creative people have a platform like YouTube to start out, that's really great. But I don't think that if an already established filmmaker watch one of my or any other video essays, they will be really influenced the same way as they would from another medium like paintings, etc. So I think it's interesting and it's a very new thing, so we don't know what's going to happen in the next few decades. I think there are many signs that Hollywood might need a revolution soon, the same way it happened in the 70s when a new generation changed the industry. So it feels like people are getting tired of old IPs being remade and superhero movies and all that. So yeah, there's definitely some chance for some people who are really good and creative to get into the film industry, but I'm not sure about how it can actually change the way people think about film. Do you think about making your own movie? I put this here because it kind of connects to the last question a bit. Yes, I was always really movie or story-minded if that makes sense. I used to play out these grand narratives with my action figures as a kid, and later I was writing and making up stories in my mind or drawing comics and stuff. I even wrote some short stories, film ideas, and scuffed novel drafts in the last few years. So I'd love to make movies and just create stories, you know. And the more I analyze and hear all these great filmmakers' thoughts, the more I feel this drive. I think outside of the technical and monetary difficulties, obviously the biggest hurdle is fear and lack of confidence in some areas. But I think everyone has that when they try to start out. So I would definitely love to try and make movies in the future. What sparked your interest in movies and analysis? Have you studied film and media? I think it runs in my family a bit. While growing up, my mom used to take me and my two brothers to the video rental shop almost every day. And all three of us could choose one film to watch, and we usually watched them straight away. So I think I had a lot of exposure back then. But another big reason was my grandma and my father, who both loved movies. I remember my grandma recorded every film that was on TV for decades, and she had this huge library of movies. So whenever we went to her house, we watched all these classics and everything. That's how I got familiar with some classics such as The Wizard of Oz, which made a huge impact on me as a kid, and it's one of my favorites to this day. As a teenager, I just kept being interested, and one of my brothers collected a lot of DVDs, like hundreds. So I always asked him to give me something interesting. I think that's how I kind of developed my own taste in movies. And this is also how I first saw Oldboy and some other South Korean movies, actually. But after finding my own taste and watching some more art house films and Japanese cinema and everything, it just, became very different from what I watched before. So I don't want to go into detail of how my taste changed, but I did go to university eventually to study film theory and history, which was obviously a huge jump. It was much more intense than before. It was another huge exposure to all kinds of films from all around the world. And I learned a lot, and I had amazing teachers who really encouraged me and, taught me a lot about everything related to film. What's your top 10 favorite movies? I don't know who said this originally, but I heard it once years ago that it's impossible to answer this. What's your favorite in anything? So I always change the question to what's my favorite recently. Then I don't feel like it's too serious and I can't leave out something. I would say Yi is probably my number one movie right now. Then I would say there are some that I can't leave out. Wizard of Oz, which I talked about. Chungking Express, obviously. The Godfather. This is also my current Letterboxd top 4 as well. Akira Kurosawa's Ran is one of the greatest films of all time, for sure. I even wrote my thesis on that. There's a Hungarian film even Park Chan-wook loves, and it's called The Fifth Seal. I don't think anyone saw this because it's Hungarian and not a lot of people watch these movies, but I think it's one of the greatest films of all time, so definitely want you to watch that. I also want to include The Trial by Orson Welles. It was another really impactful film for me when I was growing up. It's based on an unfinished Franz Kafka novel, which I also love. And if some of you remember my old profile picture on the channel, it was a shot from that movie. And I also really like Anthony Perkins, so that's another reason. For the last 3, I'm just going to say a few films I recently watched and I was blown away by. So I just use my chance to mention them. One is Peppermint Candy by Lee Chang-dong, the director of 2016's Burning. Moving, which I already mentioned, by Shinji Somai. It probably became one of my all-time favorites. It's such a beautiful film, both visually and narratively, and it surprised me a lot of times, and I really want everyone to see it because it's very underrated and it's amazing. And lastly, let's say Woman in the Dunes. I love the novel by Abe Kobo, and I finally watched the film as well, and it was really great. Throughout film history, there have been projects directors almost did but never could. What would you have liked to see from those? Stanley Kubrick's Napoleon. I love history and that era especially, so I can't imagine how amazing the project would have been if he had the chance to actually make it. He worked on it for a decade, and I think seeing Barry Lyndon, we can all agree how sad it is that we missed out on that. If you could greenlit one movie, would you rather see a Western directed by David Fincher or a sci-fi made by Martin Scorsese? I feel like a sci-fi by Scorsese is much more unlikely to ever happen, so it would be very interesting to see. Suggest me some film books. Disclaimer, I haven't been reading a lot of film books recently. Some of these are things I know about or I read during university or parts of it at least. Basically anything by David Bordwell. Maybe start with film art and introduction or narration in fictional film. What is Cinema by André Bazin. There's a great book by François Truffaut as well. He wrote about Hitchcock. Which country are you from? I'm from Hungary. Did you have a good breakfast? Yes, although breakfast is probably the meal I should care a lot more about, since they say it's very important, but I just usually eat something very light and just go on with my day. Movies that you didn't like in first go but then loved later. There are probably many films like that, but the one that comes to mind is Decision to Leave. I was somewhat disappointed the first time when it came out, but rewatched it recently and it became one of my favorites from Park Chan-wook, so yeah, that one. Best cinema era, film director from that era and movie from that time. I don't think I have a short answer for this, so just bear with me. From film history, I resonated a lot with modern European film movements of the 50s and 60s, directors like Bergman, Godard, Fellini, etc. Also these decades, and if we go back a bit to the 40s, were really exciting worldwide as well, I think. I love film noir and some of my favorites came out then. It's also the time Kurosawa made some of his best work like Seven Samurai, Yojimbo, Throne of Blood. But if it's more about my personal enjoyment or an era that I have most of my favorites from, it's probably the 90s and early 2000s. It might be my bias or nostalgia of that time, but I love the look and feel of that era of films. Whether it's from Asia like Yi Yi, Wong Kar-wai's masterpieces, Jackie Chan films, Japanese horror and anime like Ghost in the Shell, or Hollywood films like Fight Club, Mulholland Drive, Eyes Wide Shut. There's something so dreamy and beautiful about how these films look and feel. It's right before digital became the norm, and the modern, colorful, but grainy and tactile look of these films are really something I miss a lot in today's cinema. Will you make an analysis of an Indian movie? Have you watched any Indian movies? This is something that's been asked from many people in some shape or form. I actually, unfortunately, never really watched a lot of Indian movies, but I'm definitely open to exploring it, so if you have any suggestions, feel free to recommend. I'm very, very fascinated by movies and want to study filmmaking in college and work in that industry after I graduate. Do you have any experience with the industry? Do you have any advice for someone who dreams to be part of the movie making process? I don't have first-hand experience. I only worked in commercial and social media content, but I do have friends who work in the industry, and it obviously depends a lot on where you live. But based on what I heard from them, meeting a lot of people and getting your name out there is the most important. So if you study filmmaking, you have the opportunity to meet like-minded people, teachers, industry experts who you can build relationships with, and that could land you opportunities in the future. But even if you don't study and just start as a production assistant or something, you can do the same and probably climb up the ladder if you have a lot of passion. But really, I just have to say that take this with a grain of salt, because it really depends on what kind of work you'd like and where you are trying to get work. Do you think a film loses its authenticity when watched on a small screen? I think it depends. I think watching it at home is actually fine, especially with how great TV screens are nowadays. But the biggest thing is discipline. If someone is easily distracted at home, or they want to check their socials halfway through a movie, then it's obviously not going to be a proper viewing experience. The thing is that so many things people appreciate nowadays are great because of all the tiny details and nuances. And if you look away, you go into the kitchen to quickly grab a drink, or you talk with your partner to discuss the last scene, you will surely miss some of these little details. So for all the people that put in the hard work to build up these sequences and scenes and everything, which has perfect pacing, sound design, symbolism, anything like that, it's probably very devastating to think that most viewers won't even appreciate it or notice it because they think of movies like background noise. Do you edit your videos alone? When did you start editing? This is also another question I got a lot, so I just collectively answer it here. Yes, I do work alone. So I write the script, I edit my videos alone and do the animations. I think I started editing when I was about 10 or 12 years old. It was a time when everyone was using either Windows Movie Maker or Sony Vegas. I just saw a lot of these anime music videos back in the day on YouTube, and I was a big anime fan as a kid, so I just wanted to kind of recreate those, and I made some videos like that. And I actually even uploaded them on YouTube. So this is how it all started. And then I obviously saw these video essays and stuff later on in the 2010s. I was really inspired by those. but I never actually started making them. So I edited a lot of things throughout the years, but never really tried my hands at a video essay until the last 2 years, I think. So this was the last question for this video. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask them in the comments below. I will try and answer as many as I can. Thank you again for everyone subscribing and watching my videos. 100,000 is really a huge milestone for me, so thank you. Bye.